Welcome back to another episode of Unfollowed. Thanks for joining us. I'm back in Florida after a very long stint in New York. So, hopefully, over the next few weeks, for those of you looking on video, you'll see me get progressively less pale and healthier and happier looking now that I'm back in Florida. And Emily, you're in LA right now, right?
Lovely Los Angeles.
Yes. And you already voted, right? What wound up happening last week? You
Yeah.
had us on the edge of our seats. We didn't know if you were going to be able to
This
vote.
is so, it's kind of, what's funny is like things are actually, they make things really, really difficult so people don't do them when in reality, it's actually simple. I think you just have to text someone who knows what's going on or do what we did, just figure it out in person. So it's funny. So I can track my ballot online. So my ballot went to the post office and then it never got sent out. And I have proof of that. It was supposed to be here 2 weeks ago, according to their own website, which is kind of crazy. And then my dad comes over for dinner last night, 82-year-old lifelong registered Republican. Somehow his ballot never came either. And then he said
that's so mysterious. Both of your ballots somehow never arrived. I have a question.
Then,
when they arrive, is there any marking on the outside that says that you're Republican?
So I believe last time there was, which made it very easy to throw those away.
Yeah, but this time, is there a marking? Do you remember?
This time I didn't even physically get the ballot.
Oh, that's right. You haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah. And then, my dad, lifelong registered Republican, he came over for dinner last night and he was like, mine never came, which is crazy because everyone in his office, I guess, is like a Democrat. And he was like, they all voted 2 weeks ago. And so now my dad, my 82-year-old father, has to go figure out how to go vote in person where he works, which is a completely different county, which is like an hour away from where he even lives. So me and my boyfriend, I was like, we have to vote. We need to do it as soon as possible. I already don't even like that people have voted before me. And so we literally walk with our German Shepherd to, I believe it was like City Hall of Beverly Hills. It wasn't the post office, but it was right there. And it's so funny because there's like 5 people online. We walk up. Of course, they made us take our MAGA hats off, but then they actually made us legally put them 100 feet away. So we had to hide them in bushes because we didn't want people to go throw them away. So then we come back, we go up to vote, and the girl's like, name and address. And she goes, okay. And I go, you don't need an ID to confirm that that's me, my name and address. And she's like, nope. And I'm like, wait, so what's stopping me from coming here 7 days a week with anyone's name and address, which is the easiest thing in the world to confirm? I could memorize all my friends' addresses. I could vote on behalf of my brother, anyone. And I was like, that's so crazy. But I will say it was pretty awesome. Oh, and then the guy gave everyone voted stickers except for me and him. And we had to ask twice.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And everyone there, I think a lot of people, it was all like the Persian Jewish community. So like a lot of them already knew who I was. And like, we already saw like people he knew and family there. And like literally everyone there was voting for Trump. And I was like, oh, thank God. But the guy was so salty to us. He freaked out about the hats.
The guy working at the polls. The guy who was like,
and I was like, oh, this makes me feel good. But yeah, I'm just confused. What's stopping me from going 7 days a week saying other people's name and addresses and voting?
There's nothing stopping you. That's exactly the point, right? That's the point. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I agree with what Tucker said yesterday at Trump's rally, and we'll talk about it. But the idea is like, I think if things were fair and not rigged, that Trump would win in a landslide. But the question is it too big to rig at this point? I really believe that.
Yeah, I think when we look at all the betting markets, I think he would win very similar to those betting markets. I think he would win by like 60-70%. But that's why, it's so important, because I tell people, I'm like, look, I'm about to go out of town to Florida. So if I didn't walk over there and figure it out, if I waited on my ballot, it would have never came. And if I waited till the last minute, because I was freaking out thinking I had to drive all the way to a different part of Los Angeles to vote because that's where my ballot's registered, when in reality, I could go vote in a different city than the one I technically live in. So I'm like, people just need to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah, I saw an article that someone sent me who listens to the show, and I'm going to look for more into it and see if there's anything there to post about. But the Federalist is covering this, where at least for, I forget which state, it might be Oregon or Washington, one of these Pacific Northwest states that is very blue, that it doesn't really matter in the same way as other states, but still, there was an article that the Federalist posted a few weeks ago about how if you're overseas, all you need is that person's name and birthday, and you can go on a website and just vote. on their behalf. And that's the only information you need. And that's absolutely crazy. Now, I don't know what the case is for swing states and, but also swing states change, like we've talked about this before, and we talked about this. I think it was more on Dave Rubin's show than here, but people talk about, it was just, a couple thousand, or was it 10,000 votes? I don't remember the exact number, but it was basically just, it came down to not that many votes in Florida when George W. Bush won. And the answer to that is no, that's not true. It's because he got West Virginia that he was able to win with Florida, right? So every state really does count. And it is very scary when I see articles like that about, all you need is if you know a person's name and birthday. I mean, I think in Florida, like if you know someone's name and birthday, you can look up where they're registered. You can see all this information. It's really frightening. But I want to talk a little bit about Trump's rally yesterday in MSG because I was there. So, Emily, have you been to a Trump rally before?
Yeah. I mean, we've heard him speak many, many, many times. I've been to many events. So,
what was the most recent rally you went to? Was that in the last year?
Yeah, in the last year. I mean, we were at the DNC or RNC. I wish I was at the DNC. Actually, it's funny. I was supposed to go to the DNC with House and Habit, and then no one would let me go for safety issues because they thought that as soon as someone recognized me, they would just like literally try to kill me, which I wouldn't be surprised by. But RNC, and then I mean, he was in California. I watched it on my phone because I was sick that day. But
yeah.
I mean, we've seen him so many times. I mean, he's literally been, no offense, he's been like rallying for like 12 years straight at this point.
By the way, think about that. Because he has not been in office the last 4 years, he's been campaigning essentially for 4 years. The man, I don't know how he's done it. I'm exhausted and I'm not running for president. So I give him a lot of props for everything that he's doing. But yeah, it's interesting. I had the opportunity about a year and change ago, like a year and a half, to go to a rally out here in Miami, like near Doral. And I was invited by someone who works with Jared Kushner. So it was a VIP seat. And I turned it down because I had moved a date with someone 3 times and I just couldn't move it again. No, it must have been like over a year and a half ago. Cause then I wound up maybe closer to 2 years ago. Yeah. I wound up dating that person for a little bit. So I was like, I made the right choice. And then when we ended things, I was like, maybe I should have like gone to the rally. But, because that would have been really cool. But and it would have been outdoors, and that stuff is just so fun. Yesterday I was in MSG, which was very historic, very epic in many ways. And I know a lot of people who are listening to this probably saw the coverage of it. I don't know if I can emphasize enough how amazing it is to have New Yorkers for Trump. But I think people also forget, very blue states like California, New York, it's still 45-ish% red. Mm-hmm. It's like we act like it's 80-20. That's not the breakdown. These states, when you look, it's like every state is the same. It's just how big and how important the cities are that influence how blue the state is. But if you look in New York, California, you just have the cities that are those blue dots. And then outside of the city, everything's red. So in New York, anything outside of Manhattan pretty much is red. Long Island, entirely red. California is the same. Once you just but because the cities are so dominant and they are so populous, that's why the state is so blue. But people in New York are pretty based, and there are a lot of normies and like just a lot of people voting for Trump. So it was amazing to be there in a place where, like, listen, it's really popular. If you're in the South, if you're in Florida, the norm is actually to be voting for Trump. But to be somewhere where there was so much pride, so many red MAGA hats, it was just unbelievable. There were so many people. People were camped outside of Madison Square Garden. It was freezing. People were in the cold 24 hours before the rally, staying there overnight to get in because I think it was first come, first serve for general admission. It was packed to the rafters. I think the seating there is 75,000 people, and every seat was taken in the end. It was just it was unbelievable. So I went there with a few people in the space. I wound up, funny enough, running into Dave Rubin and Michael Knowles in security. And I told security, I'm like, you realize this is Rachel Maddow that you're letting in, because Michael Knowles looks just like her. And whenever people are joking on Twitter about, or I should say X, I dead name unless it's X, because out of respect for Elon, I will call it X. But every time people do the Mark Cuban, Rachel Maddow comparison, I always comment, guys, stop being so mean to Michael Knowles, because he also looks like them. I've actually asked him, I said, do you think they let you into Yale because they just thought you were a lesbian and didn't realize that you were Michael Knowles? So anyways, I ran into them, which was nice. Ran into a bunch of people in the space. great energy. The speeches were unbelievable. It's crazy. I was sitting there thinking, like, what a crazy time that I'm sitting in this arena and we have Tucker, RF. And by the way, I have a lot of issues with Tucker these days, a lot, including the fact that he's like just asking questions about if we're the bad guys in World War II. But still, he's a big figure. He's there. Tulsi, RFK, Eric Trump, Don Jr., Laura Trump, Dana White, Hulk Hogan, Elon Musk. I mean, this is Howard Lutnick. This was crazy. And then Melania, and then Trump comes out, and like this is, I mean, what it's imagine this is our lineup, and like you're blackpilling, bro. That's who we have. We're like total unity party, and you're blackpilling. So it was just really cool to see all of that. It was very, very long rally with a lot of really good speakers. I feel like my body's coming off the excitement of spending that many hours. It was like prom for Republicans in New York. Just like everyone was there. And then the Kill Tony. Did you see the Kill Tony controversy today about Puerto Rico?
Yeah, people can't believe a comedian spoke and made jokes.
I know. And by the way, I loved that they had him there because we need to be the party that has a sense of humor. We can't let, and I commented on this on my X account, I should say. I tweeted this morning, like the same people who are nervous about Kill Tony are the exact same people who were messaging me saying that JD Vance was the wrong VP pick because they let the mainstream media just make them second guess and feel ashamed and bully them and pressure them. No, they were always going to find something to have an issue with. That's what they jumped on. If people look at the full clip of when Kill Tony was doing his whole set, people booed at generally like I don't want to call it racist because I don't think it's racist, but people booed at, jokes made at the expense of minority groups, race, whatever. And they were laughing just when he put down the left. And that's really telling. Like that was the crowd, and he's a comedian. His job is to say comments exactly like what he said about Puerto Rico. That's his job, and he was making fun of everybody, but that's just the clip they pulled. So we cannot be the party that is not able to joke. I had people on the right commenting on my post saying we can't afford to make any mistakes right now. No, we can't get rid of our sense of humor. That's the slow boil of the frog, where we don't make jokes when it's the week before the election, then we don't make jokes a month before, a year before. We need to be able to have a sense of humor. We need to show people that it's okay and just let it blow over. I like Jack Posobiec had a tweet that I thought was good where he just said, we just don't have to let them control the media narrative. Like we could just not address that and just move on with our lives. Like we just don't have to cover this. And I agree with that.
Don't have to care.
We just don't have to care. So overall, it was amazing.
I'm like, am I the only one who watches Kill Tony? Am I the only one that knows that he's a comedian and the whole point of all that comedy is to be as like dark and raunchy as like possible and offensive as possible? Like, I'm always like, sorry, am I the only one here? None of you guys have ever watched him. Like he's very well known. He's pretty fucking famous. He's in with like Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan, and I'm pretty sure like all those dudes. Why is this like news? And also, Puerto Rico is a shithole.
Puerto Rico is a shithole. And also people who are from Puerto Rico always leave and come to mainland, but also they don't want to be part of the United States, but then they also do. Like they want to be a state. They don't want to be like, they want everything. They want to be able to have all their tax benefits, but then
it's
also
funny though, because if Democrats make Hispanic jokes and all those different things and say that Black people are too stupid to understand how to vote, I'm so confused. So they can do all these things and it's perfectly acceptable. But when a comedian is hired to make jokes. By the way, presidents for a very, very long time, if you go back and watch like very old videos, a lot of times had people go up that were comedians and make jokes. That's actually like a very normal thing.
But think about it. Kamala skipped the Al Smith dinner a couple weeks ago, which is the
can't make jokes though.
What's that?
She can't make jokes though.
She can't make jokes because she is the joke. Yeah. Kamala is literally the joke, and that's why she can't make them. But humor, listen, that's why you and I do what we do. That's why a lot of our reels that we collab on Instagram, people know this, like we do it because humor is a way to communicate with people, and it's very effective. And like the left has lost that. What's so dumb about the left is they really controlled the way people felt and the way they voted for decades. They had a total chokehold over late night. SNL used to be funny. And then everything changed over into clapter, right? Like this idea that instead of laughing, their comedians they just want clapping. They want you to clap. Like oh my God, that's like so right. DEI is the way. Like they want it to be
Yeah,
like
they
this.
want
So
comedy shows to be like civil rights movement fucking activist parties now. It's like
exactly.
literally not what it was intended for, and it's not what it's meant for. And it's actually crazy. There was a this was so long ago before I even cared about politics at all. There was a documentary called like Is It Too Far or something where they interview comedians and they go all the way back to like World War II and the Holocaust, when all people had was like they would stand up in front of each other and they would make jokes, they would do all these entertaining things. And they were like, genuinely, that was the only thing that would distract us and that kept us from not either dying or killing ourselves, because we had nothing to look forward to, but potentially our only death. And people were, the whole argument is all these different comedians like, can you make jokes about anything? Can jokes go too far? And
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just all a matter of opinion. What's funny to someone is horrible to someone. But it's funny because even back then, humor was literally used to genuinely change people's minds and like save their lives, because it was all they had. Like when all you have is the fucking gulags at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? So there's like deep down there is something very beautiful to it, but the left is so demonic. I don't think they would be able to see that. And I think people are so tired of being bullied for making jokes. This actually, I think, is so much better for us and worse for them, because anyone freaking out about it is like, you're the people we're making fun of. You can't take a fucking joke. We have to be able to have humor. And if you don't support that, then I wouldn't want to support you or any of your choices you're making politically.
Yeah, I saw someone comment something like, "Oh no, we're not going to get the hipster barista in Brooklyn with her gender studies masters." You know, like yeah, like that's who we lost from the joke. It's like all the other you've seen those clips where they ask like I think it was Will Witt from Prager. He was at Prager. I don't know if he's still there, but I remember his video a while ago where he goes dressed up as like in like a mariachi band kind of an outfit, and he goes right, and he like dresses up as a Mexican guy, and then he goes to like white people and he says, "What do you think?" And they're like, "It's obviously cultural appropriation." And he goes to Mexicans and they're all like, "I love it, like great," you know. And so I feel like that's the same thing with these jokes. Like who's actually upset? Who's actually upset? It's liberal white women on SSRIs. That's who's actually upset.
But that's the funny thing. The first thing I see on TikTok today is a Puerto Rican American. And she's like, first of all, y'all are forgetting that she was like, the Democrats can make Hispanic jokes all day long and it's okay. She was like, you guys cut, of course, like they do to me. You cut the clip. You miss everything he said before. And then she was like, wait, I'm sorry. Don't you guys want diversity in your comedy? Because he made fun of everyone. You just chose to pick one fucking thing. She was like, also as a Puerto Rican, that place is a fucking shithole. And she was like, the government didn't help people after, the natural disasters that happened there. And she's like, there's garbage collecting, literally like the Pacific Island garbage patch. And she was like, a lot of the things he's saying are fucking true. That's probably why they're funny. And I'm like, it's only white liberals who are offended on behalf of everybody in the world. Everybody.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's like it was also clearly meant to be a joke. It was a comedy sketch. And what people need to remember like what wasn't meant to be a joke, but was so cringe was when Jill Biden was it Texas? And she said she compared the Hispanic community to breakfast tacos. And she was like, you guys are the breakfast tacos of America, basically. And, no one found on the left, no one thought that was racist. By the way, the same people who were covering up the lab leak out of Wuhan. And what did they say? Instead of saying, oh, Fauci and America is actually funding this research, which is where the virus came from. Instead, they tried to convince all of America that Chinese people were eating raw bats in soup, which they do. But like they thought that was the better path and like not racist to be like, guys, Chinese people just eat bat soup. That's like what they do. Whatever. And they want to go after Kill Tony. Really?
I don't think because you hired a comedian. What did you expect?
Yeah. No, honestly, it's funny.
He made fun of like blacks, Jews, Puerto Ricans. He made fun of everybody. Why is it just one group gets to be offended?
But I go pretty far on things. I had someone ask me, it's so funny. People like think, I'm sure you get this too, but people think I have certain aspirations that are not at all what I'm going for. Someone asked me if Trump wins, they asked me if I'd want to be press secretary. And I said, first of all, that would not be me. There are people who've been with him for a long time, and that's the way that gets handed out. And I said, but also, in what universe is someone making me, Arynne Wexler, a press secretary? Because I would stand up on that podium like the yokester that I am, and I would be like, oh, maybe we're going to nuke Greenland today. And I'd be like, and I would just like pretend to get my finger near the button and be like, or is it going to be Greenland today? Ooh. And then we know what the mainstream media would run
But
with
then,
that.
to
I'm like,
be fair, look at the past two press secretaries, how fucking retarded they were. So to think that you and me would not be a giant step up from that, because at least I wouldn't lie. I would just answer the question. But you
at
have
least
like
people would
whatever
laugh and we would
Jean
look good.
Pierre,
At least we'd look
whatever her
good
name
and
is.
people would find it hilarious. But
Yeah.
we would end up in war with Greenland because I would make jokes about that every day.
Yeah, I'd make jokes about every place and we'd go to war with all of them.
We go to war with everyone. I know. No, we'd make jokes about going to war with all of them and not actually go to war. Whereas the left makes no jokes and they go to war with everyone. They go to war with everyone. So did you watch JD Vance on Tim Dillon talking about very funny people?
Okay, so that was I was getting ready this morning and I started listening to it and I was like dying laughing because he's really funny. Like Tim Dillon is obviously very funny, and I like that he's able.
Who are you referring to, JD or Tim?
But both. They're both so funny. The way they're playing off of each other and with all the jokes and stuff. And I was like, this is amazing. This is like a honest political discussion in a comedic form, which I feel like I've like weirdly never seen before, and it's actually amazing. And I haven't listened to Joe Rogan yet with Trump, but the JD Vance and Tim Dillon is really, really funny and really good too.
I didn't get to watch it yet because I was in New York running around like a little crazy girl. But I saw clips of it and they were just both laughing. And I liked the top comment that went viral that people were talking about, which is like, they tried to tell me JD Vance was weird and he has to be the most normal guy I've ever seen. Right?
Oh, no, literally. Because in this, he is like so funny. He is really smart. I did not know anything about this dude until very recently. And I'm like, damn. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, not only is he answering these questions and he's answering them honestly, he did something I feel like I've never seen a politician do in my entire life, which is why I'm like, he might be the next president someday. He was talking about how he served and he was like, I was super supportive of the Iraq war. And they were talking about, it's funny, Democrats are like with the Cheneys, who are like the most like warmongering, like evil people to ever fucking exist. So if that's who you're supporting, that just says everything we need to know about how you feel about war as well. And he actually said, I was super supportive of going into Iraq and all these things. And he was like, I regret that. And it's not something I'm proud of now. And I would have not said that. And I was like, I think this is the first time I've ever heard someone in politics ever say that they regret something and they actually would change their opinions on it. And I was like, I haven't listened to it past that, but I was like, wow, this is actually the most respectable thing I've ever heard come out of anyone's mouth, probably in my entire lifetime. And I agree with him on those things.
Yeah, but JD's so good. I really hope for many reasons. I mean, obviously we want Trump to win, but I think there's a good chance he's super relatable to people because I love that he was a never Trumper. That's so much more convincing and relatable than someone who was always on the Trump train because he's showing people you could come to where I am. Like we can evolve together. We could change our minds. And he's doing that very publicly. I'm also hoping I remember when they chose him being concerned that them not choosing a woman would be bad for us because we're dealing with Kamala and everything. But I think for many reasons, JD's a great choice, but I think it does make sense because women hate Donald Trump, but you know what women hate more than Donald Trump? Other women. And I think that a lot of women are real, like the same way women didn't want to vote for Hillary, they're not going to be voting for Kamala because Kamala is somehow a less likable version than Hillary Clinton and dumber. At least Hillary Clinton's smart. Listen, I think she's pure evil. She's pure evil. The woman is brilliant and she knows what she's doing. And she was a formidable opponent, but Kamala's not. So there's that. And also I saw there's data that's showing that, the last election cycle, 10 million fewer men voted than women. So we talk about needing to change women's minds, which I think is really important. And I think there is a world where we get there. And I think that's why you and I are doing what we're doing to show women there is another path. But it's a lot of men who are just, there are people who would side with conservative values and have just never voted, right? I was part of a campaign to help motivate gun owners and hunters in Pennsylvania to vote because there are literally hundreds of thousands just in the swing state of Pennsylvania who have never voted once. That is crazy. They obviously care about the Second Amendment. They generally likely have conservative values and they just don't go vote. And if all these men who have conservative values actually just got up and voted, that unhappy, unmarried, liberal female vote that actually has been swaying elections might be overtaken. And it's really important. So fellas, whoever is listening to this, you better be voting because real men vote. So make sure you're going and make sure you're bringing your friends.
Yesterday was funny. We were walking the dog with me and my boyfriend had our MAGA hats on, and we were on the corner, and we stopped, and a woman walks up with a stroller with a kid in it, and she goes, "Nice hat." And I was like, "Oh God," I thought she was being sarcastic. And then she just goes off. She's just exhausted. She's like, "Our country's gone to hell." She starts going off. Another woman with a stroller walks up. She starts going off with her. They must have been meeting at the corner. And I was like, wait, this is amazing. Then I look over and there is a shocking middle-aged white woman in her Tesla with a kid in the back. And she is literally just staring daggers at me. So I look and I go, and she just goes, and she's like in her car losing her mind. I even see her like yelling back at her kid at some point, and we're just like this the whole time. She does not wave. She's so angry. And I was like, you know, the funniest part about that is she's in a Tesla.
Yeah, she's in a Tesla. Funding
they're always so angry and unhappy. And literally I was like, God, imagine as a man, that's what you're coming home to. Like, how are you in a car with your child and you're this angry at a stranger on the corner who's another woman? Because I'm sure you're like, believe all women, support all women. And like, you're this angry. Meanwhile, the women next to me, like, obviously have no issue. And they're like going off too. Because like, all we care about here is really being safe at this point. Because women are in such genuine danger. But I was just like, it's so funny because it's the same demographic every single time. It never misses. And it's like such a clear sign of mental illness for you to be that upset. Yeah. Looks like she was like yelling at her kid.
Well, those are the only people who are voting for Kamala Harris. It's weak men and angry women. Those are the two demographics. That is it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So impressive demographic.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I was thinking about that at the rally yesterday. People were super respectful for the fact that there were such large crowds. It was very calm. Yeah. And like, I was just like, and people were like well-dressed and generally good looking. And I just thought, you know, if I were at a Kamala Harris rally right now, first of all, it'd be a fraction of the size, but also everyone would be unbathed. They would be angry. They would all be, you know, we love to talk about this. They would all be androgynous with fat nipples. And every time I say that, that's how I know. If Emily's ever sad, I should just talk about the androgynous leftist with fat nipples, and that's what. If she doesn't laugh, I'll know things are really bad because I always get her.
Thing that like
it like tickles your tummy. It tickles your tummy every time I say that.
It really does. I don't know why either. I really don't know why.
Because it's true. Think about it. I had someone actually come up to me at the rally yesterday and he said, I loved he like saw my tweet about it. And he said, I love your comment there. He's like, they do have fat nipples. And I said, yes, they have fat nipples because the women, it's like, what did you start? Like, are you like, do you have a chest binder? Or do you start taking puberty blockers where you're like, and you're so like not feminine curvy that you're just a blob and your boobs are so unattractive, or you're a guy who just has let himself go that you have man boobs. And either way, you have these like gross sacks of fat, just fat nipples. It's what like pepperoni nipples, you know, it's just gross. So
it just reminds me of like a big white guy on a beach. They just has like big pepperoni.
But you just know. And like, there's something about the women where it's like they want to be like pubescent and not women. Like they don't want to actually be women. And I don't know how they achieve this. I don't know what they do to make their boobs so unappealing, but they are. And you know what? We should make boobs great again in America. That's what we should do. That should be the campaign.
It's so funny because it's like when they're like, you shouldn't stereotype people. It's like, you can stereotype literally every single person on the left. They literally look a certain way. They act a certain way. They behave a certain way. And it's just like, you really can. It's not really that bad to stereotype. Like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Occasionally I will see a video of someone who's voting for Trump and I'll see the caption, you know, don't judge a book by its cover because they look like a leftist and then they're actually based. But I think it's because they probably were a leftist and they're just red pilled now because of everything. Yeah. And that's like I don't actually know where they'll fall in 4 years, you know, like we'd have to see. No. I think it's because things are so dire right now.
I also, isn't Trump leading in every single swing state right now?
I mean, listen, according to polls, that's how things are generally looking. I am so nervous. Oh, I usually say this at the beginning. We're recording this on Monday, October 28th. This will be out Tuesday, October 29th. So who knows? I'm saying that just in case things change between now and when this episode comes out.
Yeah.
But it does look like he's leading. Like it feels so different than 2016. It feels like people
Me like,
were. I know people were so motivated to vote for Trump in 2016, but a lot of people saw him as a joke. And in 2020, a lot of people were angry at him. But this time is just so different. Like we
oh my
have,
God.
you saw like the baseball player who had the MAGA hat and ran across the camera this weekend. They're like,
Yeah.
the social proof is there. People are really coming out. It's hard to imagine that we don't have both more supporters for Trump this time around and also far fewer for the left.
Yeah.
That's just really how it
You know
seems.
what makes me happy though? I opened TikTok this morning. The first thing I saw was like some like gay liberal guy, and he was just like, "Are you guys also feeling what I'm feeling? It's not like the last, like 2020 or whatever." He was like, I really think he's gonna win," and I was like, "This is the best video I could possibly open when I wake up." But here's something that's so interesting. Okay, so Polymarket says right now Trump is almost 66%. That is insane. He is almost leading like double by what she has. But then the swing states, Arizona, he's at 73%. Huge win. Georgia, 73%. Huge win. Michigan, 53 and 47. It's close, but that's still a pretty decent margin. Nevada, 63% he's at. That's a huge win. 61, Pennsylvania. That's huge. Wisconsin, 58 to 41. That is still a huge lead.
The margins you're reading are way wider than what I've seen in other places, you know? So, and like Poly Market, I think it's mostly foreign money at this point. So I'm a little skeptical. I don't know what to believe. It's very hard because I remember in 2016, I was working at Goldman Sachs at the time on the trading floor. And I remember the polls saying one thing, but we were talking with hedge funds and people who were getting data in ways that now everyone's getting it. But at the time we were talking with people who were looking at I remember we were looking at the betting markets and not at the polls because the betting markets were showing much closer and like possibly in favor. It showed that Trump was possibly able to win. But people have caught on to that now. And so now I'm like not as certain about.
Well, we also can't factor in that overnight Joe Biden had millions of mail-in ballots that were somehow.
You mean when the pipes
were Democrats?
Oh my God, you mean the pipes bursting? Yeah.
I'm like, that's so crazy that everyone that voted by mail was a Democrat and not one was for a Republican. It's funny though, because it says Kamala's winning the popular vote. And I'm like, by fucking what standards? By who? By which company?
I don't buy that at all. Even popular vote does not make sense to me. But here's the thing. I do worry sometimes that we live in a bubble where because of the space that we're in, that we're not as like, I never want to be out of touch. And I do, but I feel it in my kishkes, like I feel it like in my bones that Trump is going to win this time. The question is if they let him.
Yeah. Do you think New York was surprised that he had a rally that size and that turnout?
I don't know if people were surprised. I didn't hear anything like that. Like the city's so big, honestly. It's like, no, it's like it's in one area. You could be 2 blocks over and you don't even know what's happening. But yeah, I can't remember what I was about to say. I woke up at 5 a.m.
It's the same thing, like you said, like in California, like you have crazy red pockets. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, West Hollywood shit's super blue. Then it's like, boom, Beverly Hills, it's like all red. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not shocked. Every single person at the polls was talking to us because I'm sure they've seen me online or they knew who my boyfriend was. And, we were all just like talking about Trump the entire time. And I even made a joke on the way out. I was like, because the guy finally gave me a sticker after I asked multiple times. I was like, crazy. And I said something to him and he said something back. I think he said like, don't ever talk like that or something. Cause I was like, oh, thanks. I know I'm a dirty Republican. And I took it. And then he said something, but I was like, fuck you. My shit's already in. And some girl was like, I'm a fucking Republican. And I was like, hey bitch, I'm joking, dumbass. I was like, clearly you don't know who I am, but I was like, that's okay. But I was like, we're all in this together. Biatch.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel it in my bones. He's going to win. I've never felt that before. Like 2020, my gut was, it just doesn't feel right. And especially when I saw that Pennsylvania was doing the mail-in ballots, I got very nervous. And now there's basically like a whole psyop going on. So people are sharing videos. Some of them have been fake. There was one real one today, but it was showing ballots either being tossed or there was a fire. Like someone set one of the ballot boxes on fire in, I think it was Portland. But that video, like in Portland, what are you worried about? That's a blue area. So why are you setting it on fire? Those aren't, and like, it's obviously not a Republican doing that. It's a leftist setting the ballot box on fire. And I really believe, and I'm part of that camp that's on X talking about this, that it's just meant to be a psyop meant to intimidate conservatives from voting.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. Yeah, I remember in the last election, I got very nervous when I saw that Pennsylvania had mail-ins, because that's when I felt like, I was like, that's how they're going to get it. That's how they're going to end it. And I was right and wrong. I was right about the mail-in part. I was wrong about the state. Pennsylvania was one of them, but really Arizona also was even more egregious, as well as Georgia. So, but I think this time we've gotten a lot smarter, and we've spent the last 4 years dealing with all the things that we did not address in the last election. So, I mean, we'll certainly
free
see.
speech is major. I mean, like literally, this is why I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, if you are like this diehard Republican, but you're posting on your close friends list and you're too scared to wear a MAGA hat in public, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're the reason that we lost the election. It's I'm sorry, like your sensitivity and you're being scared and all these things. Like, I just don't have respect for you. If every single person walked around with a hat of who they voted for, they would see that they couldn't steal these elections. It's so black and white, so clear. But my friends are still too scared. And I'm like, what are you scared of? Like losing your shitty fucking friends, your shitty fucking job, these people that actively vote to ruin your life, make you broke, and put you in fucking danger? Like, I just don't respect you. I think you're a fucking coward.
I agree with you. I had so many people in New York City whispering to me that when I was wearing my MAGA hat, because I wore it everywhere and I had different colors. But yesterday, going back from the rally, I wore just the classic red MAGA hat. And I had these two girls who look like liberals, and they were like, I love your hat. And I was talking to them, and they're like whispering. And it's crazy that in 2024, it is like, if you're a conservative in a blue city, it is the same as being gay in the 50s. That's what this is. And Literally. People need to stop being afraid, because what do you care about? You care about people who think that a man can become a woman?
Yeah, that's what
you're
I'm
so afraid of. People who want chest binders for tots? That's whose opinion you're so afraid of? Seriously? Don't be a fucking pussy.
I'm like, oh my God, you're scared your local barista is going to think you're a white supremacist? Like, oh my God, go to another fucking coffee shop. Like, who cares? It's such a weird way to live to me. It's like, I don't want to see you post about any shit about, and also if you're not voting, don't ever fucking complain again. If you ever complain, I will be the 100%. First person to message you and put you on fucking blast and screenshot it. Be like, you're a fucking loser. You didn't even fucking vote and you were too scared. Or my vote doesn't matter. It does. And when you all think that way, that's why we also lose. Yeah. I hate that. That drives me nuts.
Well, that's the thing. The left, they never give up, and they will still encroach on red states. So right now, and I think I've mentioned this before, but in Florida, we have a bunch of amendments on the ballot that are just obviously that were shoved in by leftists, including Amendment 4, which is allowing abortion up to the moment of birth and for minors without parental consent. And you know what that tells you? It shows you that Marxists don't give up, and they keep fighting. Because what do? We lose California, we lose New York, and we just kind of leave. We don't try to push amendments on them. And we allow them to encroach on us in our own states now. And it's such a mistake. But I know I really want to talk about the Joe Rogan Trump podcast from last week that they dropped. I don't know why they dropped it so late Friday night. Everyone I know was so tired staying up to listen to like a 3-hour podcast episode. Did you watch all of it?
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't even started it. It's so long, and I literally have no time.
Yeah, but also it's not meant to, like, you're already voting for him. I think it's good for someone who, again, these low propensity male voters, which is also what I'm really hoping Elon will do. Like Elon doing this raffle where he's giving away $1 million. I think that could help us get these guys who just sit at home and don't normally vote. Which is, and now they're trying to sue him. What's that?
And now they're trying to sue him for doing that.
Now they're trying to sue him.
Remember, do you know why?
Remember when Trump gave money out for groceries at the supermarket, and they also tried claiming that was like breaking election rules? So
but I'm confused. He can't. But it's so funny. These are the Democrats like AOC saying they want to sue him for giving money, and I'm like, wait a minute. He's giving money to middle-class people, and now all of a sudden, you guys are against middle-class people getting money? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. But you guys can give Beyonce $10 million to go endorse Kamala Harris? I'm sorry, what the fuck is the difference? He's actually changing people's lives for the better.
Yeah.
Like,
He really is.
Democrats are pissed because that should be the money funneled into their pockets for her new Tesla and townhome and all the shit she buys.
100%. Yeah. By the way, how funny is that they used Beyonce to fill a stadium so people thought they were getting a free Beyonce concert? I think they gave her what, $2 million for a few minutes. Also,
10.
no, I thought it was two.
No, they gave Lizzo 2.5, I think.
Oh my God. That's so absurd because she didn't perform, but they told everyone that she did, that she was going to. And she made Kamala come to Texas for it because I think that's where she lives now, but she was somewhere and it wasn't even a swing state. So they had Kamala come to Beyonce for apparently, let's just call it millions and millions of dollars, possibly $10 million. And she didn't even perform. That's, and that I mean, I tweeted about this. I said, expecting a vote for Kamala Harris will fix the country is like going to a rally thinking Beyonce will perform. It won't happen.
Literally.
It won't
It's
happen.
also funny because, like, are we not confirming that everyone went there not for Kamala, but to literally see Beyonce? And
Yeah.
it's like, so we all know that this is actively happening, right?
I
We don't
remember
need to
seeing hype tweets like, "Oh my God, look at this Kamala." Somehow I end up on like my feed gets some gross leftist stuff once in a while, which is important for knowing what they're saying, but I prefer not to see it. And there were a bunch of tweets of people trying to like hype up the Kamala rally, and then I realized later, oh, it's because Beyonce was there. Of course, that's why.
Yeah. It was funny, like, it's so hard not to make fun of these people. But you have like everyone going to vote yesterday, and they're all like, these are honestly like, it was all like normal Persian parents and like their kids and stuff, just normal people in Beverly Hills. And then I was like, there was one flaming gay guy outside with like shorts on with his partner, and he was like with his like I voted sticker, and I just was like, it's crazy because you know who he voted for.
Yeah.
And then when he saw my MAGA hat, he just was like, ugh. Because like, I don't know what the gays lately in Los Angeles are getting increasingly sassy and violent to anyone wearing MAGA stuff. They actually almost might be worse than the white women demographic at this point. I'm actually having more issues with them lately.
They basically are white women.
So. Yeah, they act like shitty white women.
That's the worst thing about them.
I'm like, you're taking the one thing that makes you great, which is being a dude, but you're acting like a shitty woman. I'm like, this sucks so bad. But like, it's so funny because I was just like, this is so good. He's like his like I voted sticker. I was like, I really can't. I can't with you guys anymore.
So I have friends who are in New York and they are voting for Trump. They're a gay couple, but they can't even tell their community of gays, which I think is so pathetic. I think it's so sad. If you can't tell the people you're friends with, then those are not friends. But they were telling me, but they believe the lies. They believe that Trump, who's obviously just a New York businessman who's fine with the gays. He's a little too loose on some social issues for conservatives like me. Like, I don't like that a few years ago, he made a comment saying that he'd be fine with Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner using the women's bathroom in Trump Tower. I'm like, I disagree with that. But he's a normal New York businessman. He wants IVF for everyone. He's totally fine with the gay community. Like, it's so obvious that he is. He's not getting rid of any of the things that a gay couple or gay person would care about, but they just believe. I think people want to believe what they want to believe because they don't want to actually have to change their minds and admit that they're wrong about the Democratic Party. And so they're just going to pretend that Trump's trying to get rid of IVF and surrogacy and all of that when he's certainly not. So that's the biggest thing with their community right now.
To me, it's like shocking being in Los Angeles because it's like so funny. I've been here my whole life. Used to like hang out with drag queens at clubs, like all this shit. Always had gay best friends my whole life. And, a lot of my friends are gay and like, I don't care. I really hate bringing it up because I think it has nothing to do with them or who they are. I'm not talking to them about my straight sex. They're not talking to me about their sex. No one fucking cares. It's actually the least interesting thing about all of us, but it is like kind of annoying because I've said I was like literally shoved by a gay guy and I've been having a lot of issues with gay men here recently, just being really fucking over the top, extremely fucking rude and even aggressive. And I want to be like, it's so funny coming from you guys in your community. The people that have been crying for so fucking long that you're different and you want to be accepted and you want to be treated equally and fairly and you want to be treated with respect. Look at the way you fucking treat someone with a different opinion. Now I'm kind of like, now I think you're all fucking full of shit. And no wonder you guys are getting backlash right now. Even people like me are starting to be like, I'm a little fucking sick of it. I don't care if you're gay. I'm going to pop the fuck off if you say something to me. And you need to like, honestly start acting like fucking adults, which is what you are, and men, which is also what you are.
Yeah. No, but there are two things there that make, so one is that it's crazy because they claim that the right wants to impose our values on them, which is really generally not the case. And they actually want to impose their life on the right, which is they want people on the right to accept them. And it's not even like on a legal level, because legally you could do IVF and surrogacy and marriage and all of that. Like those rights are there. They want you to accept it in your heart, in your mind, which is not a requirement. If it's, you have the law, you don't need people to accept you in their hearts like that. And the way to do that is certainly not by being sassy the way Emily is describing. But the other thing is, it's also really surprising because I do think there is part of the movement though that did wake up because they're sick of being lumped in with the trans community and like all these like furry freaks where it's like they're getting lumped in with a totally psychotic part of the movement. But my understanding, at least from my friends who are in New York, also one of my closest friends is gay. And he's told me that for a lot of the people in the gay community, they feel an intense social pressure to be accepting of the trans community. And he's the one who said to me a long time ago, you know, I say pronouns because, you know, it's nice if it makes someone feel good and it's, you know, then I might as well. And I said, no, like you don't indulge someone's false reality because that's how we get to where we are today. This was only a few years ago that he was saying this to me. And I think since then he's come around and realized why I refuse to use pronouns, because that's where it starts. And then you have to indulge everything else. And then you're dealing with actually crazy people who expect you to bend to their will and compel your speech and compel your thoughts. And so I just, it's everything about the trans movement goes against what the gay community fought for so many decades. It's shocking to me that they're just allowing themselves to be used. And they were just told, you're LGBTQ plus whatever, like you're part of this. And they're like, okay, we're part of this.
Yeah, and it's ruining everything for them because they're getting so much hate. It's like so crazy because once again, I have to accept everything about you, your morals, your lifestyle, who you I have to accept all these things, but you will never accept me for being a Trump supporter. So why the fuck do I don't have to like or accept you, actually. And when I've gotten a ton of shit about I hate gays because I talk about the alphabet people, that has nothing to do with gay people. That has to do with all these fucking freaks that shove all this shit down our throats and do it to fucking children. That's normally never gay people, actually. It's always the alphabet people, and they're fucking freaks. And I'm sorry, like, I don't have to accept you. And I'm sure as fuck not going to allow it around children either because I'm a normal functioning adult in society. So sorry. I think it sucks that if gay people were smart right now, they would start speaking up against it because they're going to go right down with it.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's because it's become so extreme. Same thing with, honestly, with someone like Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, if most trans people were like Bruce, I think most people would be using pronouns. I think most people would actually be okay with it because Bruce is generally like live and let live. Like don't let men and women's sports, but like just refer to me in this way. And like if most people were Bruce Jenner, they'd probably be using pronouns. But in a way, I'm almost thankful that we have the crazies because it stops us from just indulging that, because I do think that's a really dangerous thing for us to do as a society, which is to pretend a man is a woman. And I'm someone who thinks, like you could dress however you want. If you want to shoot yourself up with hormones, you want to do plastic surgery, that's totally your right, because that doesn't impose anything on me. Where you start to impose on me and infringe on my rights is when you tell me I have to refer to you by the pronouns that are not actually your sex. That's where it gets crazy to me. But I think,
and like I used to be best friends with this girl that's now a dude, and I watch her exploit her lifestyle and her children or her child on soon to be children on social media. And it's fucking crazy. This is 100% for profit. This chick went from having no money and having to get child support from her baby daddy, who was dating someone wealthy and famous, to literally bitches like in a fucking new Range Rover, like head to toe designer, like Balenciaga, like buying all this shit. She calls her daughter they, them. She's like, oh, I'm taking them out to eat today. And I'm like, there's not fucking two of her. And also she looks like a fucking freak now. She has like a shaved head. It's all black. I'm like, this is why when people are like, this isn't a social thing. This is 100% a social thing. If this child was raised in my household, she would be fucking normal. This is literally child abuse, and she's exploiting it online to make money because she's a sick person. She is also a fucking groomer, and at her big ass age was literally hooking up with my friend who looked like she was 13 years old, who was like pretty much like 17, 18 at the time, and then it also groomed another girl. So when you think these people are good people, they're actually fucking weirdos.
Yeah, well, like all these stories come out now, right? Where it's like trans activists, whatever, found with like child pornography. And it's like, oh, really? It's always the ones you least suspect, you know? It's so surprising. But there's that. But I'm hopeful to bring things back, because I think we're kind of nearing the end of our time here. I'm hopeful that parents have been awakened by a lot of this, and that we see that in this election. I'm a little nervous that things right now are like, they're not stable, but it's not like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, we had COVID under them. And I know it started with Trump, but people forget we had BLM riots. We have porn books in schools with kids. We have parents being called domestic terrorists, being kicked out of school board meetings for bringing up issues about their own children. We have parents who are having their children taken away from them because they won't affirm their gender. Meanwhile, it's actual child abuse, what you just described, what that woman's doing to her child. Yeah. And that is acceptable, and not the child's not protected under the law. So I'm really hopeful that parents are like, they're motivated to go to the polls, because nothing wakes up a mama bear like something like that. But also women are very liberal.
I will tell you, I've joined like multiple groups in LA that are all moms. I've been hanging out with moms, and I'm telling you, like, no one is more angry and more motivated right now than moms who are dealing with this shit with their kids in school right now. It is so bad. I have them they're literally telling the parents, oh, you don't get to see the curriculum. It's not your right to have your child have a phone in a classroom so they can record all the fucked up shit that the teachers are. Oh, it's not your right to do this. Like, you fucking work for us. We pay your fucking salary. It's absolutely my right. I'm giving you 8 hours a day to brainwash my kid. You cannot have your flags in the classroom and all your fucked up opinions here. And also the curriculums, some of them are written by Planned Parenthood. So I'm sure there's no indoctrination going on.
No, the left, leftist government employees, they act like we work for them instead of that they work for us. But you feel that in a place like Florida. I feel like the government here works for us. And they know that. They believe that. They think that's their purpose. And you go to a place like New York or California, and the government absolutely sees us as their subjects. Like, they're the kings. So
I will leave on a positive note. If everyone knows, you should, because he is like the root of all evil. We have a very, very corrupt district attorney named George Gascon, who, talk about people can't agree in California. We have like over, I think, like 500,000 signatures to recall this guy the first time, and somehow magically 200,000 or 300,000 of them were thrown out because you might have, signed a little out of the line. And we have a new district attorney, even though he's a Democrat. I've been working on his campaign, called Nathan Hochman. Things are so bad here. Hochman is leading and is like 99.9% chance going to win. And if he wins, and of course, Gascon is endorsed by Kamala, all the Democrats. So if he wins, that is I know people hate California. They love to talk shit on Los Angeles. If he wins, this is a turning page for California, Los Angeles. We will begin to make the city safe again, deal with the homeless. We will punish crime again. That is fucking huge for us. As much as the president's huge, this is honestly potentially bigger for us. So that gives me so much hope. If he's doing this well, I can see Trump winning.
Yeah. And that's why voting matters, even when you're in a blue city, in a blue state. That's why you go out and vote. So everyone, I don't know, Emily, we're gonna talk next week about when we want to have our pod episode, because if we do it on Monday, it'll be out Tuesday, just as we're going into the election. So we're gonna try to do that. But next week is a crazy week. This is the final stretch. This is it. So go vote. Make sure everyone you know is voting. Hold the line and get off your ass and get to the polls. So
literally, do not wait another day.
This is the time for praying, but it's not just praying. This is the time for doing. So go and vote. You'll see us voting. I'll post a selfie. I'm going to vote now that I'm back today. I'm going to vote tomorrow. So
already posted mine.
God bless everyone. God bless Trump. God bless this country. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.